US for Egil, na money. But we run an international bank to borrow 1 million and 1.5 million US, paying interest.
Kaieteur Radio, keeping you informed.
Demerara and Essequibo 99.1 FM.
Berbice 99.5 FM. Kaieteur Radio.
Good day. Thank you for tuning into Kaieteur Radio. I'm Kevin Smith. Welcome to your news at noon. Without further ado, let's get to the news in detail. Ghana, a West African oil producer whose people are trapped in a lopsided gas deal with oil companies, including ExxonMobil, is now set to advise Guyana on how to best execute its $900 million gas-to-shore venture. According to the head of state, Dr. Irfan Ali, a technical team from Ghana will be heading to Guyana early next month to advise the country on how it should be going about its $900 million gas project in partnership with ExxonMobil subsidiary Esso. President Ali said the decision on the visit by the technical team follows a bilateral meeting that was held between a delegation led recently by Vice President Dr. Bharat Jagdeo and Vice President of Ghana, Mahamudu Bawumia. He said the outcome of this meeting will also see assistance from Ghana's experts on amendments to the nation's Natural Resource Fund law, as well as draft local content legislation. Both documents are expected to be tabled and passed in the National Assembly before the end of the year. And in other news, Guyana's total external debt at the end of June this year stood at some $3 billion. But this is likely to skyrocket in the near future as the Ministry of Finance is currently prioritizing a list of project proposals from its program portfolio to submit to the United Arab Emirates Investment Fund for financing. This is even as the country also considers potential funding from the Kuwait Investment Fund, in addition to the Inter-American Development Bank, whose president, Mauricio Claver-Caron, is due to visit Guyana imminently for a fact-finding mission on funding opportunities for programs in Guyana. According to the president, there was particular interest shown in Guyana during Dubai 2020, especially in the non-oil sector, and spoke to the possibility of utilizing monies from the UAE's investment fund to finance such projects, and cited as example information communication technology. And moving on, there has been an escalating public debate over the proliferation of foreign companies into Guyana, especially in the absence of any local content provisions or protective legislation. Questionable practices are perceived to be largely overlooked, as is evidenced with the accusations being leveled against at least one Trinidadian-based company operating in Guyana called Europa Guyana Inc. A quick Google search and a perusal of public reports locally and regionally revealed its operations manager, Hewitt Allen, was at least up to 2010 listed on the International Police's Most Wanted list for sex crimes allegedly perpetrated against underage girls in a number of Caribbean islands. According to reports, the official is now being accused of allegedly using insider information in order to scoop up multi-million contracts for the Trinidadian company by underbidding locals. And now let's tell you, the confessed killer who escaped from the Lusignan prison on Thursday had his trip to neighboring Suriname called off yesterday after cops captured him in a minibus that was bound for Purica on the east bank of Essequibo. Capildio Gangadin had waited until all the prisoners at the Lusignan prison were accounted for before making his escape from the quarantine section by scaling the fence sometime around 4 hours 45. However, his plan was thwarted after someone tipped police that he was spotted in a minibus en route to Purica. Rangs intercepted the minibus around 9 hours 30 in the vicinity of Onderneming on the west bank of Demerara, and Gangadin was captured. He was later questioned by investigators and told them that he was actually heading to Suriname and had gotten money for the trip from an overseas uncle. And now let's tell you, President Ali reiterated that he is committed to providing salary increases for public servants. When questioned when he is going to meet with the Guyana Public Service Union, the president said that that commitment will be fulfilled before the end of the year. In August, Ali made the announcement that public servants will be receiving salary increases before the end of 2021. He had stated that the salary increase will be retroactive and was keen to note that it is not his government's vision for the discourse to be only about salary increases. Rather, it is actively looking at mechanisms that would allow all public servants to live improved lives. The renewed commitment comes on the heels of the recent half-year report from the Bank of Guyana, noting that public sector minimum wage remains at $70,000 while consumer price continues to escalate. And moving on, the country's manufacturing and construction sector's performance boomed in the first half of this year when compared to the same period for last year. This is according to the recently released Bank of Guyana half-year report. The sector's performance this year was attributed to the lifting of some COVID-19 restrictions that were put in place and that of the reopening of the economy. In the government's half-year report, it stated that the construction industry boomed, registering a growth of 25.5%. In last year's half-year report, it was noted that this industry declined by 5.6% due to lower levels of both public and private sector activities. In other news, the long-awaited Electoral Reform legislation drafted, or the Representation of the People's Act, is expected to be distributed next week for 6 weeks of consultation. This was announced yesterday by President Irfaan Ali. The president also stated that during his bilateral meeting with the Secretary General of the Organization of American States, Luis Almagro, the official reiterated the organization's commitment to support for electoral reform and strengthening of democracy in Guyana. And just before we head to our COVID-19 update, followed by the page 7 of the Kaieteur News, let's tell you that an aspiring Chief Justice, Crystal Amsterdam, was filled with emotions yesterday as she was admitted to the bar at the Demerara Supreme Court. Amsterdam's petition was presented by attorney-at-law Collis Bevgems and accepted by High Court Judge Justice Damon Young. This achievement is a major one for 24-year-old Amsterdam because it takes her one step closer towards her dream of one day becoming a Chief Justice. The young lawyer grew up on the east coast of Demerara and at age 14 realized that it was her calling to pursue a career in the legal profession. Yesterday, the Ministry of Health announced that 6 more persons who tested positive for COVID-19 have died. As a result of this, the country's COVID-19 death toll has moved to 910. Guyana's latest fatalities are that of 5 unvaccinated persons and a partially vaccinated person. Meanwhile, 94 new cases were recorded, bringing the total number of confirmed cases to 35,444. Out of that figure, 18,684 persons are women, while 16,760 are men. 17 patients are admitted into the ICU, 68 persons in institutional isolation, 2,816 in home isolation, and 5 in institutional quarantine. To date, a total of 31,633 recoveries have been recorded. Exxon and the PPP government seem to believe Guyanese are fools. They hold this sham called public consultations for ExxonMobil's project after giving Guyanese 10 days to wade through thousands of pages of technical stuff. They themselves can't go through so much material so quickly. But they give Guyanese that job to do and call for meaningful consultations. This is how Exxon, the EPA, and the Vice President make total fools of Guyanese. How long are Guyanese going to take this impasse? And with that, we've come to the end of today's News at Noon. I'm Kevin Smith. Thank you for listening.
Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur Radio's newscasts.